Welcome back to the Advanced Selling Podcast, the longest running sales training podcast history. I'm Bill Caskey.
And I'm Brian Neal here.
And we love you guys. We record an episode every week. I don't know how many we're up to now, well over 10
episodes.
And we've been doing this for many years, and we get great comments and emails from you. So if you do have a critique or a question, just send it to listener@advancedsellingpodcast.com. If you want us to use your name on the air, we will. If you want to be anonymous, we can do that too. But we did this here a couple of years ago, opened up our question line. We got a lot of really good ones. We haven't done that for a while. So make sure you send us a question or just a thought. If you have a perspective on things you've heard on the podcast, we will answer them all.
I love it. And we do love our listeners. What I'm amazed by, this is just fun. I just got a note the other day that said, I just found your podcast. Mm-hmm. We've been doing this for 15 years. So that two things are happening. The world is just getting more into podcasting. And secondarily, because we've never really promoted this thing ever, like in terms of like getting new listeners, it's all organic. People are still finding it. So,
yeah. And you figure there's 10 million sales managers, leaders, salespeople. I don't know what I used to hear 17 million. I don't know if I buy that, but I think it's lessened. But in the business to business space, there's millions of people, and we have probably 15, 20,000 per episode. So we're just scratching the surface.
Yeah, just a lot of room to grow there. Hey, I ran across a Twitter feed that I thought you would find interesting. We do like to talk about vocabulary and words and word origins. This is a Twitter feed. The woman's name is Dr. Kat Day, Katday, and her Twitter handle is Chronicle Flask, CHRONICLEFLASK. She's a proofreader for a living, Bill. She's a proofreader, but she did a really cool series of posts on words that are the same word that have different definitions. And when I start reading these, you'll figure out what it is. Forgo, Forgo, and forgo, Forego. Those mean different things. Same word, different things.
Oh, wow.
Forgo, Forgo, means to opt out or abstain.
That's
right.
Okay.
I'm going to forgo the party. I'm going to forgo the invitation. Forgo, Forego, means to go before.
I never knew that.
I know.
Yeah.
Isn't this?
I've always used the first one, forgo.
I know.
Forgo.
Right. And the spelling too. The spelling's wrong. So compliment with an E, compliment, and compliment with an I are different things. Compliment.
Yeah, I know that one.
Right. Completes something or adds a feature, right? Compliment is to say something nice. Stationary and stationary. Stationary and stationary.
That's a good one. No, let me guess here.
Yeah. What's the difference?
So the ARY is stay in one place.
You got it.
And the ERY is paper.
Yes. Yeah. How about brooch and brooch? Brooch. I'm going to wear a nice brooch to the party.
Versus, well, are they spelled differently?
They are. The brooch to the party is spelled BROOCH. BROOCH.
Oh, wow.
And to broach, to raise a difficult subject, is BROACH.
Oh, it is ACH? I thought it was CHE. So it's ACH, like a roach, like a cockroach. That type of roach. Okay.
Yes. Advice or advised. Advice is the noun, right?
Yeah.
That's just a little fun thing that she's got. So check her out. This is just a fun, it just keeps going and going. Effect, affect. She's got all these things. Rein and rein, REIGN and REIN. REIGN, REIN.
Mm-hmm. The affect effect thing is a problem for me sometimes. I've got to stop and think about it.
You do, don't you?
Yeah.
Yes.
And I see a lot of people misuse it, and it's like well and good. We've had that conversation before.
Yes, and bear and bear.
Yeah.
Like,
that's a good one.
Bear and bear. So,
like if you bear arms, you're
exactly.
a BARE, correct?
Yes, correct.
Unless
people goof that up because they think like a bear's aggressive. I don't know what they think, except for Winnie.
All right,
bear. Anyway, what was the bear's name? The Smokey the bear.
Smokey
the bear was the bear that told us not to make forest fires.
He kind of disappeared. Yeah, it was a good ad campaign. He disappeared.
He's retired. He retired to an island just off the coast of Alaska.
Oh, really? It's hibernating.
Living in a fine daily meal salmon. Good for him. Smokey the bear.
All
All
right.
right, let's
Topic
do it.
today.
Yeah, go ahead, fire away.
Yeah, we've got an insider coming up in April 1st. Actually, it's the first Friday in April Fool's Day.
It really is happening, by
It
the way.
really is happening. And
Really
here
is
it is
happening.
called Your Assets Equals Your Future. And we've been talking about this concept of assets off and on, but I don't know if we've ever really coined the phrase that way. And so we started talking pre-show about how to help you think about that a little bit. We'd love to have you in the Insider program so you can get access to that particular one, because it's going to be really good. We're going to take a deep dive, and everybody's going to have a way for them to identify their own assets. And the way this all started was Brian and I, as coaches, we get people that come to us and they say, hey, want to grow our business, want to grow myself, company, want to grow, all my sales team. And I think, Brian, if you're like me, you sometimes look at the people and you look at all the potential and value that they bring, and sometimes they don't even see it themselves. Either the VP of sales doesn't see it or the people themselves don't see it. And so I've always struggled with, how do you really put a mirror up in front of people and say, look, you're freaking good. You are really good. Why are you not doing this and this? And why are you doing this? And so I wanted to talk about that today a little bit in the run up to that April 1st event.
I love that. I love that. And I think you're going to go really deep on this, aren't you, on the show or on the at the Insider, right?
We are.
And we are today. So this would be a really good one if you're not in the program to start with. I wrote down, Bill, in the pre-show, I told you this. I wrote down the word human balance sheet. Human balance sheet. That's my own personal human balance sheet. Me as a person, and like any good balance sheet, I've got assets and liabilities. I feel like, I don't know where this comes from. In our society, we tend to focus so much on the liabilities column, the things we're not good at yet, the things we need to improve upon, the things we want to accomplish we haven't done yet, all that stuff, versus examining the asset column with the same level of detail to say, what am I really good at?
Yeah.
What skill do I have that other people may not, that differentiates me, and that sort of thing. And I don't know if it's a humility thing or we're so wired to find what's wrong with things. I don't know.
Probably both of those.
I love my wife dearly. We have this little hand-woven basket that's hand-woven from palms from these women in South Carolina, where my mom lives, that hand make these things. And I've had this thing for like almost 20 years, and it is awesome. And last night we're at dinner. It's like, it holds the bread. I'm like, it's amazing. These are handmade. And she goes, yeah, this one's coming apart, actually. And she points to this little bitty spot right in the corner. And I love her to death. I go, it's amazing. You can look at this and find something wrong with it.
Find the flaw. Oh, yeah.
And she goes, well, I just don't want it to come apart. And I know where she's coming from. And she's right. She knows that our dog bit at one time, and she knows where that spot is. Point is, I think so many people are wired that way.
Yeah.
So many of you salespeople listening to this are wired to think, oh my gosh, I can see the flaw or the spot on the ceiling or whatever. And you see it then in yourself. And that's the thing. So we want to work today, I think, on the asset column of really showing.
That's so true. And it's it's beautiful, but it's the it's precious. But what if this whole world comes to an end next week? Well, I guess we won't have to worry about that.
No, that's little. Yeah.
So I think, don't you think what we've all been through in the last couple of years has exacerbated that? I mean, think about when you, back in the height of the pandemic, when you saw somebody maybe on the street and you're masked up or you weren't or whatever, but everybody's talking about it. It's the top of everybody's mind. What did they always say when you left them? When the conversation was over, what did they typically say? Stay safe.
Oh, stay safe. Oh,
yeah. Be safe.
Yeah. Take care of yourself. Yeah. Stay healthy.
But it's always that stay safe. And
yes,
I think, is there really good advice to stay safe? I know what we meant there. I'm not saying we should have not, but I'm not sure if we hear that over and over, be safe, Brian. Don't do anything crazy.
Right,
Well,
right.
don't take any risks now, because you know what can happen if you take a risk. And it's like, well, isn't life just one big risk after another, especially in business? You try something new, you try a new program. Staying safe, we would never leave our comfort zone.
No, it's so true. That's interesting, isn't it? Yeah. Put yourself in danger. Hey, see you, Bill. Yeah, right. Good luck. Do something that scares you to death. So true, isn't it, though? We never do that, do we? Press. Hey, do something you might fail out. We don't leave people that way.
Yeah.
Hey, I hope you do something that fails this week. But that's where growth comes, isn't it?
It is where growth
So
comes.
true. So
So the
true.
message. So anyway, I like your
Yeah.
idea of human balance sheet, assets, and liabilities.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
do you want to take a couple of
Yeah.
examples of liabilities first that, or should we just
I like
ignore
the
that column?
for a minute, yeah. I'm kinda leaning towards ignoring it on purpose
Okay.
because I think the asset column is where, um, that's where the action is that's missed, you know? Um, and what I'm thinking through is, how do you I think we wanna create some self-awareness here, and how do you do that? Like, how do you look at yourself and go, "I'm actually pretty good at this thing," without feeling like, a dork or, you're bragging or anything like that. Um,
I
I'm also
wonder if we
yeah, go ahead.
can. I
I
wonder if
know,
I wonder
it's
if we can.
possible.
I wonder if we should be able to find someone else in our life who observes us in the raw,
Yeah.
in the wild,
Yes.
and says, "Oh, you don't think you're good at this? Oh no, you're very good at this."
Yes.
And by the same token, somebody says, "You know, you think you're really funny. You're really not.
Yeah,
So
right,
don't do
exactly.
a
They
comedy
think
tour." You know?
yeah. Well, that's a good point. I think the mechanism here to find out what these assets are at a deeper level, one is to ask those people closest to you. So this might
Yeah,
be a spouse
yeah.
question or a kid question or a best friend question. Like, hey, if I'm listening to these two dudes on this podcast that tell me I need to figure out what my assets are to inventory them. If I were to ask you, what is one personality trait, way that I am, some skill I have that you think is like as good as anybody else you were around, what would that one thing
Hmm.
be? And to ask people that. And I would also in that case, so and most people care about you, they're gonna have something, you know.
Oh yeah,
I mean, no doubt. I mean, if we did it, if you asked me, hey Brian, give me, I could name a list for you, Bill. You can name a list for me,
yeah.
but it would be difficult for us to do that with ourselves, right? Or we
Right.
would dismiss it.
Or we would,
We would
yeah,
dismiss it.
we would
Well, not
discount it. Well, I'm
yeah,
okay at this, but
kind of.
isn't
Really?
isn't
Yeah,
everybody good at
totally.
that?
I do that all the time. Well, yeah, that's everybody does this. Like,
Yeah.
what's the problem? It's funny, isn't it?
Yeah, so I think that's a good idea is go to somebody and, don't let them get away with, well, you're a very caring guy, Bill.
Right.
You're a nice guy. Now,
Nice. No.
we want some harder assets than that.
Yes.
And harder assets could be things like, you know what, you really are a good listener, or you're really present when someone is around, or I've noticed how careful you take care of the surroundings when we have a party, or I don't know, whatever those things are.
Yes.
Um, but those have to be the personal ones. And go assets and liabilities. You don't spend much time on liabilities because, like Brian said, I don't want to insert those any further down than they already are.
Right.
But I think it's also good to say what's one of your liabilities. Like I'm unorganized.
Yeah.
That's one of my biggest liabilities that my
Yep.
wife reminds me of
Yep.
from time to time. Like already
From
today, she's
time to
reminded me.
time. Yes.
But she's
That
right. And she's
yes.
right. And that is a liability for me. So, but one option is go to organizing school and spend 4 years. Or the other
Yeah.
option is to delegate some of those things that I'm disorganized about. And so I've chosen B.
Said that. Organized. Yeah. And I'm really bad at responsiveness. Like people text me and call me and I don't respond, or they send me an email, like, did you get the email? And I'm really bad at that. Um, and I tend to focus on that. And then I think what happens in the liability, we are talking about the liabilities now,
Mhm.
is
Yeah.
I think we will tend to exacerbate those and make them sometimes even worse than they really are. On one hand, on another hand, we could ignore them, and just like dismiss them and say, well, that's no big deal. There's a balance in there because I run the risk of going way the other way. It's like, oh, I'm a horrible person because I didn't respond to Bill's text. Well, I'm not a
Yeah.
horrible person.
Yeah. Instead of
Goodness
just saying, that's just me. It's
It's
just,
just who I am, right? Accepting, like and as long as I'm continuing to pay attention to that and
yeah.
recognize where it might hurt someone else or cause harm to others, as long as I'm aware of that and I can, manage through that. But
Yeah.
what about the asset column?
Yeah. Let's talk about the assets.
Let's do it.
So,
What would you? Yeah.
I was thinking about it in a couple different ways. One is, as I just said, it's what you own. It's your personal assets.
Mm,
Like, let's say, Brian, you've got, I don't know what you're 50. Are you 50 yet?
50. Yeah. 52.
52.
Oh yeah.
You've got 52 years of life experience. And,
Mhm.
some of that was in childhood. Some of it is once you graduated from college, you've done a lot of cool things and the refereeing, you've got a lot of experience. Well, that's something that nobody can take away from you.
Mhm.
You
Mhm.
you own that experience. So I would think about this as owned assets, my experience, my
Yes.
mind, my creativity. I might be able to work on it a little bit, but I have, we all have this creative slice of genius within us. It's not usually nourished, but we have it there. So that's one type of asset to me. The other type is an asset that you either purchase or you lease or you rent, like your customer list. You don't own your customer list,
Yeah.
but as long as you have customers, then they are part of your asset base. Happy
Yes.
customers, satisfied. Testimonials probably is more something that you would own. But that
Yes.
was a way that I was thinking about dividing these, and there may be even a third category.
I love it. I love it. So yes, you have these life experiences things. And so, and in that, you got to watch the balance of these things. All the failures are asset. I'm in your experience column, which I love. Failures are the assets, right? Having been through a bankruptcy or a divorce
Absolutely.
or a business failure or losing a big client, or you have a client that hates you because of how bad you were in the past. Those are assets as much are the
Mhm.
good ones, right? Yeah. Then on the physical side, it's the stuff that we own. Like I think about that. If I'm taking inventory myself, I was an early adopter on LinkedIn. It was real bullish on it. So I've, either accepted or requested every one of 17,000 connections, not followers, but actual connections on LinkedIn. That's an asset that I own. Technically, LinkedIn owns
Absolutely.
it, but it's mine, right? And it's
Yeah.
there, and I built it, and I remember when it was 0. So that's what you're talking about there, right?
Yeah.
Something like
Yeah,
that.
that's a really good one too, is do you own that? Because technically you don't,
Right.
as long as LinkedIn doesn't tamper with it, and as
Yeah.
long as you don't say something that gets you banned from LinkedIn, like I did,
Yes.
then it is yours. So yeah, I would
Yes.
say it is. Now it's even better if you have their email addresses
Right.
or phone numbers, then you technically do own it. But I'd say, yeah, that's a great
Yeah.
asset. I mean,
Yes. Yeah.
you know,
What about a skill? Where does a skill fit into this? So experiences is one thing. I think skill might be another thing.
I think
Fit in here?
personal skills is an
Yeah.
asset.
Yeah.
I think our ability to do this every week and release a podcast, I think it's a skill that
Yeah.
pays off. We have insider members and we have gigs that we get. We've got
Yeah.
advertisers that
Yeah.
so I think skills are a big part of it.
Yeah.
And my question always is what are the skills of the future? And to
Mm,
me, one of the skills of the future is actually recognizing the assets that you have.
yes.
So to make your head explode, yeah, a
Just did.
skill is an asset, but also one of the skills is to recognize and identify and be
Yeah.
proud of the
Yes.
assets that you bring to the table.
Yeah. That's the trick, to be proud of them, not braggy, but proud. I love
Yeah.
that word. Yeah. And I also love the idea of the skill asset is demonstratable or demonstrable. How would I say that? I don't even know.
Let's ask CAD.
We should ask Kat, Dr. Kat. Let's go back to Twitter. So in other words, we have a skill, we have a mechanical skill in podcasting. And we know that because if someone walked up to us, if you and I were having a meeting anywhere, anytime, and literally came up and stuck 2 microphones in front of us and said, I want you guys to record a podcast, we would go, okay. And that's a skill
Mhm,
that we have. It's a
mhm.
mechanical skill, how to get into a show, how to banter, how to not step on each other when we're talking. That's a skill that we have. Maybe stepping on each other while we're talking.
I'm afraid. Now I'm afraid
Develops
to
a
talk
little
'cause I'm afraid you'll
exactly.
start talking.
And
Now
stop.
give me the cue.
Exactly right.
Yeah, I like that. I think skill, and so that might be something else you do is look at the skills that you have because skills to me you can assess whether you're pretty good at something. Like if you're
Sure.
good at finding the problem when you first
Yeah.
start talking to a
Yeah.
potential client, if you know whether you're good at that or not. And some
Yes.
days you may be better than others, but generally if you get down to the end of the process and you're only closing 6% of the deals, you probably are not very skilled at
Right.
finding the problem. So there are
Yes.
some indicators I think you could use, but that would be an asset. I think is any kind of a skill in the buyer seller process
Yes.
is an asset.
Absolutely. I think about the ability to talk about money in a process, is
Absolutely.
a skill or not a skill. And I think we got to keep in mind here, we're not self-evaluating our ability to talk about money. We're trying to make a list of our assets so that we can live in those, right? Throw
Yeah,
fuel on them and make sure they're alive and big. And because if you live in your asset column, you're going to be in good shape no matter what you
that's
do.
right.
and be
That's right.
super happy. Right.
And you said it earlier, just take inventory of it.
Yeah.
And that's a great word. And so I would encourage you to do that. And if you're so inclined and want to go a lot deeper into this topic, then April 1st is our next insider program. Your assets equals your future. I really believe how you leverage those assets that you have once you identify them will determine your future income, your future relationships, your career path. How many times have you seen somebody who has done really well, and you kind of look at them and you do the whole terrible
Yeah.
comparison?
Right.
God,
I'm better
he
than that.
makes
Right.
he does
Exactly.
that much money an
Totally.
hour, or and
Like what?
it's not because he's better than us or because we're worse. It's because he's leveraged his asset
That's
better.
it. That's
Leveraged
it.
his value.
That is no doubt. And I'm assuming in this insider group, we've not talked about this. People are going to leave with this list started, correct? Or
Their
something like
personal,
it.
their
Yes.
personal list. Yeah,
That's
'cause
great.
it's-
That's a really
yeah.
good reason to go check that out. So.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
That's
I'll
it.
see you next time. Good job
Bye.
today.
Yep.
All right, bye.